Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Lisa Greenhill, and I am the Senior Director for Institutional Research and Diversity at the Association of American Veterinary Medical Colleges. For folks that don't know who the AAVMC is, especially for students and pre-vet students, we run VMCAS. Typically, more folks know us by that. I am also the host of the podcast Diversity and Inclusion on Air, which is the only veterinary podcast devoted to issues around diversity in the profession. I'm really, really honored to be here this morning, or now afternoon. Thank you so much for the invitation. I've been with AAVMC off and on for close to 20 years, and I lead the Diversity Matters initiative, which I launched in 2005. Many years ago, when I started with AAVMC in the mid-90s, the total percentage for underrepresented DVM students hovered around 8%. And today it is about 21%. So we have made great strides. Unfortunately, the percentage of Black DVM students has not grown substantially during this time. In the last 15 years since I launched the initiative, Black student enrollment has only grown about 0.5%. From 2.2% to 2.8% across all 30 institutions in the US. And during this time, we've also seen the percentage of Black men in particular decline, similar to other populations within the profession. The rise of organized affinity groups like BlackDVM Network are really, really important. It's important in raising the voices and profiles of veterinarians who are Black or of African descent. This group has always been really small, but mighty and very powerful, and has made amazing contributions to the profession at large, but not always getting the attention and recognition that it deserves. So groups like BlackDVM Network have always been needed, but certainly in the current environment, these groups are especially important as we consider the ways in which Black folks show up in the world, and especially show up in professional settings. I'm really happy to be one of the only veterinary organizations to be emphatically for Black Lives Matter. We at AAVMC, we recently launched, actually on Juneteenth, we launched our BLM page. We recognize that Black Lives Matter, that the injustices that folks who identify as Black in the US and abroad is really a public health issue, which makes it a veterinary issue. And I want this group to know that we have really made a decision during this kind of uprising time to move forward very intentionally with a new commitment, not just to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but really about social justice more broadly. So you'll be seeing some really interesting things kind of coming out of AAVMC moving forward. I look forward to working with BlackDVM Network and certainly other affinity groups that may be represented on the webinar. I'm really, really proud of Dr. Price for creating the network and creating this space. As a new veterinarian, this is so exciting to see young people and young professionals really stepping out and doing just amazing things. And frankly, it is one of the best parts and most rewarding parts of my job, looking nationally and internationally. So thank you so much, Tiara, for the work that you are doing and the inspiration that you are. So with that, I will say thank you to this group again for including me. I'm not a veterinarian, for folks that don't know. I'm a social scientist by training, but I've just been really honored to be a part of the profession and play the role that I do. And so thank you all for everything that you're doing in your professional lives. And with that, I will certainly turn it back over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Greenhill. That was beautiful. And of course, we really look forward to working with you in the future. And just, of course, just keep growing the BlackDVM Network and the veterinary community in general. So yes, thank you again for that. That was beautiful. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with our panelists. So I'm going to have each of them give a nice brief statement about themselves. I'm sure a lot of you have already read their bios, I'm hoping. And we have some really talented and just successful individuals here today. So I'm super psyched to hear about everybody's brief statements. So anybody can start first, doesn't matter. Or Dr. Gentry, you can start first since I see you right after me. But yes, go ahead and get started with that.
Yeah, sure, of course. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Andrea Gentry Apple. I am a 2015 grad of North Carolina State, and I am currently the coordinator of veterinary education and the clinical associate veterinarian at North Carolina A&T State University, as well as I do a little relief practice on the side. My passions in veterinary medicine range greatly from diversity and inclusion, as well as through education of minority farmers to incorporate more practical and efficient ways to increase their overall production standards. And of course, thanks for having me. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. Thank you, Dr. Gentry Apple. Next, we can have Dr. Green. You may introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Henry Green. I'm a 1999 grad of Louisiana State University. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I spent the past 19 years at Purdue University and just returned home to get back near the family to Louisiana State University as an associate professor of cardiology. My interests range from all of cardiovascular medicine to every effort that I could possibly be involved with diversity and inclusion initiatives at Purdue, and hopefully continuing that process here. Already started some of the work that I had started at Purdue here down at LSU by creating a diversity internship program, and looking forward to creating some other programming that will improve our efforts throughout all areas of inclusion. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Next, we'll have Dr. Cesar Martinez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I am Dr. Rachel Cesar Martinez. I am a veterinarian for the United States Department of Agriculture. I'm currently the director for all the ports in the country. So basically all the live animals that are coming into the country, I have a very large group that oversees them. I did graduate from Michigan State, and one of my biggest passions or things I like to do or I have done is actually I'm really more engaged now with my community, my local area. I do adjunct professorship as well for College of Southern Maryland, where I help teach the vet assistant certification program, and also the Kid and Teen College, where I can help teach junior vet and pet vet. And also we've started a farm that we are hoping that trying to promote to have kids from the DC area to come out and learn about animals.
Thank you, Dr. Cesar. All right, now we have Dr. Hawley, and he can introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Quincy Hawley, and I'm a 2009 grad of North Carolina State, North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie pride to all the Aggies out there. And I graduated from NC State's College of Veterinary Medicine in 2013. Did small animal practice at Banfield for the first 5 years after graduating. Now I'm a relief veterinarian, also the president of the North Carolina Association of Minority Veterinarians, and I'm also the co-founder of Get Motivated LLC, which is a company that focuses on providing well-being solutions for all members of the veterinary community. Our goal is to help veterinarians enjoy veterinary medicine instead of enduring it. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you here. Next, we'll have Dr. Padilla introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It's great to be here. So my name is Luis Padilla. For the first 20 years of my professional career, I've been a zoo veterinarian with the St. Louis Zoo most of that time, also a couple of other zoos. But In the last 2 years, my role as a veterinarian evolved to work more with people and our animal care teams. I oversee all of the animal care efforts at the St. Louis Zoo, which is several thousand animals, about over 200 employees. And I also lead all of our current efforts to promote diversity and inclusion within the animal care fields. So that does include veterinary medicine as well as animal care, animal welfare, animal sciences. And I am originally from Puerto Rico. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome, great to have you as well. Next, we'll have Dr. Taylor to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Will Taylor. I am a 1999 graduate of Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a 2004 graduate of Tuskegee University. After graduation, I spent a year at University of Tennessee doing a small animal internship. After that, I worked for the USDA FSIS as a public health veterinarian in a poultry plant. Spent some time working for Banfield in private practice. And after working for Banfield for a couple of years in private practice, I started Dr. Taylor LLC to continue doing relief work in the Atlanta area. That has grown into relief work in shelter medicine, private practice, high volume, spay and neuter. Let's see, what else do I do? I just finished a residency in infectious disease at the CDC in 2018? Yes, 18. No, it's 19, it's 2020. To 2019. I am also the co-owner of Lovewell Pet Holistic, which is a CBD pet product company. And I'm in the process of starting the Maggie T Foundation, a nonprofit as well. So that's my background. And thank you guys for having me.
Of course, glad to have you with us. Next, we'll have Dr. Kennedy. He will introduce himself.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name's Alan Kennedy. I am a Tuskegee graduate from many years back. Appreciate you guys having the old school fellow like myself on this panel. I am currently serving as the Director for Diversity and Inclusion at North Carolina State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where I've been for the past 25 years. Now also, well, since 2004, owner-operator of my own small ruminant and camel and mobile veterinary practice out of Hillsborough, North Carolina. Looking forward to having some conversation about this important issue of diversity and inclusion and the Black lives connected with it.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Bowens. She will be able to introduce herself.
Can you hear me? Great.
Yes, ma'am.
So my name is Dr. Priscilla Bowens. I am excited to be here. And one of the things I think about when I think of veterinary medicine is impact. So I got my start at Tuskegee University, undergraduate in veterinary school. I finished veterinary school in 2006. So I was there when Dr. Taylor was there. And I continued to practice I started practicing after veterinary school. I've done small animal medicine and surgery, emergency medicine and surgery. I've worked in corporate medicine. I've worked for small animal or small businesses in addition to relief work. Well, I knew when I mentioned impact, one of the things that I wanted to do was expand that reach. And by that, I pursued an MPH. So I graduated from the University of Florida in 2013. I've done work not only on the vet side, but on the human side. I've worked with Tarrant County. I live in Texas, Fort Worth to be exact. So I've done a lot of boots on the ground work there as well. Again, impact. So I wanted to expand my reach even further, and I decided to pursue a law degree at the University of Texas at Austin. And so for the past 4 years, I've been practicing as a corporate attorney, initially at in an international law firm, but now I'm working at a company, a global ophthalmic medical device company here in Fort Worth. How that relates to my veterinary career, while it's great at the company, I get to see a lot of science. One of the things that I do to try to give back is mentor new grads and veterinary students, in addition to speaking to county veterinary groups as well. So I've gotten a chance to do that. On the business side, I've launched a business called Pet Nugget LLC, and the focus is on pet health education, especially with technology and the pandemic. And through that business, we've launched a YouTube channel called MD plus DVM, which brings together human doctors and veterinary doctors to have One Health discussions, which is definitely needed, especially during these times. So happy to be here and looking forward to the rest of the panel.
All right, thank you everybody for those great introductions. Didn't I tell you guys we have some very special panelists today? So just to get some interactions from the crowd, I want everybody to do a little raised hand if you know some of these panelists. Maybe it can be one, two, maybe you know all of them, but let's see if the veterinary community is as close as we think it is. So it looks like just about everybody knows at least one person here. This is great. I love it. So that's the whole purpose of BlackDVM Network, is to keep bridging those connections and bringing in the community. Yeah, y'all are still raising your hands. I love it. It's great. Awesome. So just to get everything started, we have a couple of questions from BlackDVM Network that we'd like to ask our panelists. So the first question, and everybody doesn't have to answer, of course, but please feel free. First question, can you tell us about your current role in veterinary medicine? And I think some of you have already sort of answered that, but definitely give us some more details on that. Don't all talk at once.
Yes, I can explain. I can go. So currently I am in academia almost full time. So I am a professor at North Carolina A&T State University, where I mentor and teach pre-veterinary students and gear them for veterinary medical programs. So I teach all the classes that we all hated, or most of us hated in vet school: the anatomy, the physiology, the histologies, all of the things that we wanted to forget, that I personally wanted to forget. I get to teach those now to pre-veterinary students to try and get them ready for a veterinary medical program to be successful. For those that don't know, North Carolina A&T is a historically Black university. So the majority of my students are African-American or Black. And so they signify in that minority range. So I get to directly mentor those pre-vet students. Other than that, I also have a little bit of an extension role through our North Carolina State Extension Office, where I'm able to go out and mentor farmers, or I talk to farmers. I wouldn't even say mentor, because I think I get more of the mentoring from a lot of our farmers, because I can always learn something. But I get to work with a lot of minority farmers in the region to help them increase their production, to help them with new things that are coming out. So for example, proper antibiotic use. We can't get penicillin for everything. So having them understand how those things work with their farms in order to help their animals live healthier, as well as help them increase their overall production choices, as well as I do small animal relief. And so when I came out of North Carolina State, I went to Tuskegee University to do a large animal internship, which I loved it. For those that have been there or those that have been in the program, they have a West Alabama herd health program that was like my joy while I was there as an intern. Dr. Kennedy actually was the first one to introduce me to that program and the clinician that oversees it. And so I loved it, and I've been doing it ever since, and something that I really have a strong passion for. So and then other than that, small animal relief, I kind of got thrown into that because I was looking for a side gig, because loans are real. So I got into small animal relief, and I had to relearn a lot that I'd wanted to push towards the back of my mind, because I just knew graduating out of NC State, I was not going to touch a cat again. I just thought I was going to be in a truck and live my best dreams riding off into the sunset. And then I said, well, small animal will keep the lights on. So I kept going. But that's me.
I can go. So as I mentioned, I work for the Department of Agriculture and oversee a lot of employees that work directly at the port of entries at JFK, Miami, LA, anywhere that you can enter into the US. And so actually a huge thing that I'm kind of been dealing with now, or not just now, but trying to help our veterinarians that work in this area, is trying to handle people that are bringing in their animals, because as you guys know, there's a lot of people that want to bring in animals, want to rescue them from China, want to bring their emotional support peacock, and so many things. And so they're very anxious and very stressed. And so it's really important to try to, have the veterinarians that are right there dealing with it, be able to handle those situations and communicate with these difficult clients. And so I'm really trying to work with our staff with doing that. And in general, that's really important for many of us veterinarians, because that's really what could stress us out, is dealing with difficult clients. So, and it's interesting how actually if you're working in the government, you're dealing with it quite a bit, because you are USDA. Doesn't matter if you're just dealing with one animal or not. They assume, it's your fault for stopping avocados from coming into the country. I'm like, no, I don't deal with avocados, but still it's your fault. So I'm really trying to work with the veterinarians to do that. And that's I do a lot of other things too, but that's one big thing that I've been trying to help with our veterinary community and the government with.
I'll go ahead. I, as a employee at NC State University, as I said, for the past 25 years, serve as the Chief Diversity Officer for the College of Veterinary Medicine. So right now, with all that's happening around our world, especially here in the United States, I'm charged with trying to provide educational programs, opportunities for our community to learn about cultural differences, about specific needs for our students. And our society for that matter. So a lot of educational programs that we put together. I'm in charge of making sure that these things are appropriate and fitting for meeting the needs that fit our community. I also serve on our admissions committee. My position is a permanent one on there to make sure that we're doing what we say that we are charged to do for our college. Which is to build a diverse class that's going to meet the future needs of our veterinary profession, not just for North Carolina, but global needs. I just finished my annual report, so I had a count of 18 different committees, councils, advisory groups that I serve on, which, the unfortunate part of that is that there are not enough of us within our academic setting to go around. So again, trying to recruit and get more individuals that come in, especially people from diverse backgrounds, so we can spread this workload out is extremely important to me, especially as I move towards getting closer to retiring. We got to have a succession plan, and I'm making sure that those kind of things are in place for the future of not just us at NC State, but again, our veterinary profession. On the other side of the coin, with my private practice stuff, that's what keeps me sane. I was fortunate enough to get in here just in time to make this meeting today from doing that. And you'll hear a theme. Dr. Gentry, you hit it hard there, in that a lot of us have that side gig, that thing to make sure that we can take care of business and get your life established so that you can live it the way that you want to. So do what you got to do while you all are young now to get those things like that taken care of, so you can go out and give back and do the types of things that you're going to be asked to do as you make yourselves more prominent in the profession.
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Green.
I can go next. I'm also an academician, and most of my time is spent, 50% of my time is spent performing cardiology, running a cardiology service and clinics. And the other 50% of my time is everything else that all the others mentioned: committee work, research that I have to perform and I enjoy performing, and then mentoring students. That was a big part of my time also while at Purdue, and starting the similar mentoring process and goal setting processes here at LSU is important. And then the rest of my time is actually spent doing something that we all strive to, which is work-life balance. I also have 3 kids, so I make sure I'm home for them And also I coach girls and boys basketball teams on the side, so, and train athletes. So that's my sanity part of it. And just being out in the community is a big part of what I do to help expand the thoughts of veterinary medicine into our community, because it's actually a long, not a thought of career, often thought of career for young Black students in our area. So that's one of the things that I do, get out and make sure I speak to schools, or make sure I let students know what I do, and how this career offers me opportunities to do all of the things that I enjoy doing. So.
Okay, I guess I can go next. So one of my major passions within veterinary medicine is the well-being, the happiness, the inner peace and fulfillment of the caregivers, one's taking care of the actual animals themselves. And so if you're a pre-veterinary student, you may or may not know that within the veterinary profession, we're having some challenges right now with burnout, compassion fatigue, suicidal ideation, depressive episodes, and I think just overall resentment of the choice to even go into the profession. We see that for a lot of veterinary professionals. And I believe that through not only companies like my own Get Motivated, but also the AVMA and many other organizations that are popping up, we're putting more emphasis on the well-being. Like, what are those tools and strategies that we can use to handle the tough stuff that we have to face, not only in veterinary medicine, but also in life as a human being? So, for example, you may have a family member who gets sick or a family member who passes away. Like, how do you process that so that you don't bring that into work? And if you have something negative that affects you at work, how do you process that so you don't take that back home to your family? And so that, like, how do you maintain that sanity, that fulfillment and happiness within vet med? And so one of the big things that I do now through Get Motivated is that I travel around to veterinary schools. I believe I've given, over the past 2 years, over 50 talks on the subject of well-being and how to prioritize that for yourself, how to cultivate that, and then how do you maintain it once you've got it. And I've spoken at conferences, and we're also creating the world's first online school of well-being specifically for veterinary professionals. So when you're in vet school, it's understandable. You're there to learn about, like, how to treat animals, how to diagnose diseases. You're there to learn a lot of the veterinary science, but we wanted to have something that veterinary professionals, whether you're a pre-vet student, a vet student, a seasoned veterinarian, or a technician, or something in between all of that, where can you go to consume written, audio, and video content to help yourself thrive and enjoy instead of endure and be resentful towards that choice? And so I'm really looking forward to my breakout session talking more about that and my own personal struggle as a new graduate, seeing 25 to 35 cases a day at a really, 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 really busy practice. And so I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Cesar. I was actually going to move into that, unless anybody else wanted to discuss what their role is in veterinary medicine. Okay, so we will get into some of the questions that were mentioned in the Q&A. Okay, so somebody did ask, which Dr. Greenhill did answer, is what is the ideal age or stage to introduce veterinary medicine to a child? Which I know for me personally, I think that's super important, because that was the main reason I got into veterinary medicine, was because of my cousin being a veterinarian and watching him. I knew I loved animals a lot, but I never knew that you could be a doctor for animals until I watched him and I've seen him graduate, and I was like, wow, I could do that too. So I definitely think starting at a young age is, the way to go. So some of you can give some feedback on that question.
I'll go
Yeah,
real quickly. Oh, you want to go?
go ahead,
Oh.
Priscilla.
I was just going to say that my husband's also a veterinarian. He does veterinary neurology and neurosurgery, and we have two daughters, an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. But I will say that we look at our own family kind of as a guidepost, as you will, to how early you can introduce veterinary medicine. From early on, when my daughter was like in preschool and they had career day, you have your parents come and show up in their lab coats and do an exam on the teddy bear or something of that nature. And they're wondering, are you a doctor? And yes, you're a doctor, but you're a doctor for animals. So I think the kids are so smart and can absorb so much at young ages that it would behoove us as a profession to make sure that we're getting out not only in our own inner circles, which everyone has already talked about here and they're already doing, but to make sure that we're going to the elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. Of course, you may have to do that virtually now with COVID-19, but the earlier the better. I actually attended or was listening to one of BlackDVM Network's Instagram Lives where they had a clinician talk about, I think she was going into the Army, and she was talking about how it would have been great. She thinks that a lot of kids of minority children see an example of a veterinarian too late, so to speak, like in high school, as opposed to earlier stages. And so my goal has always been, whenever someone emails me or calls me and says, hey, Priscilla, are you free to talk to whomever about veterinary medicine? I always make time. Even though I'm not practicing now, I'm still a doctor, I'm still a veterinarian. I still do other things that incorporate the profession, even though my 9 to 5 and what pays the bills is my attorney job. But it's always making time because people are going to contact you, but you also can reach out. Even as a vet student, you can reach out to these types of groups, boys and girls clubs, if you're in a fraternity or a sorority. I'm in the Links Incorporated, so we have our own programs as well. So just reaching out in your community is really important, but kids can understand at a very young age.
I wanted to piggyback on that if I could as well. Um, I've been very fortunate to have people in my network reach out to me knowing that I was a veterinarian and ask me to speak at like elementary schools, high schools, sometimes even on the college level and things like that. And Priscilla, you hit it right on the head. I think that you might have mentioned that these kids are really advanced. And I know like the STEAM programs and the STEM programs are a good outlet as well for these younger individuals. And one questions they asked me is, when did you know you wanted to be a veterinarian and things like that? And I tell them honestly, I didn't want to be a veterinarian. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. And I didn't get exposed to any veterinary medicine until I was at Southern University. And originally then I was in engineering, and I absolutely hated engineering. I just couldn't stand it. It felt like work until I got introduced to my first poultry science class. And the first time I had to go to the hatchery, and then we had our chicks, and then we grew them out, and then we had broilers, and then we had a barbecue at the end of the class. I was absolutely fascinated. And I was hooked ever since then. And I think the main thing is they see that you're passionate about what you do. And that's why I encourage them. I said, you may change your mind several times. But if you enjoy science and things like that, I tell them, you don't have to just love animals to be a veterinarian. You probably want to be in love with science as well. And it usually goes well. But I would be surprised sometimes. I don't do a lot of speaking when I'm at the events. I just answer questions. And they have so many interesting like insights on what they want to do. So yeah, it's a really cool experience. It really fulfills me.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that I'm very fortunate to be able to teach the junior vet and pre-vet or pet vet this summer at our community college. Unfortunately, I wish it was live and I could be there at the school and in the lab and showing them different things because that was really fun last year and it really like sparked up a lot of kids. But this time it's going to be virtual. So I'm going to be on our farm and trying to show them all the different animals that we have here. And hopefully that'll spark them up. But fortunately, because of, COVID, I still am able to have small groups come. And so I think it's really, really important that kids do get to see and be comfortable around animals. Because I do get kids that are come and be like, no, I'm scared. I'm like, no, it's okay. You're to be fine. And that's really what we want to be able to do, is have a more comfort level for kids to say and feel comfortable to say that I want to be a veterinarian as well.
Yeah, I know for me, when I was at NC State, I worked with Dr. Kennedy on this middle school camp that he did, because Kennedy thought it would be a great idea for me to get, to wrangle some middle schoolers. And so we actually taught them the anatomy of the heart. We went through the entire week. I taught them blood flow. We talked about valves. And at first I was a little nervous because I'm like, we're going to say atrioventricular. I'm going to get this into your brain. They had blood flow down by the time I was done, and it was only 5 days. So they're outrageously smart and can tackle pretty much any topic you put in front of them, as long as you make it fun. And for them, it was. But even now, like in my current role, I'm creating animal science courses for high school students in a virtual space. So right now we're working with North Carolina Virtual Public Schools to make sure that we can put animal science curricula for free for public school students in every single high school. And all they have to do is sign up through their public schools in order to get them hooked to say, all right, let's just talk about the basics in farm animal care. Let's tell the difference between a cow and a steer. And maybe I can get you to spark that interest to want to learn more and go into animal science too. But we need to expose particularly minority students as early as elementary school, and even probably before then, to get them really interested in this profession, because there's so many things within it.
If I can add to some of that, in zoos, we talk about powerful emotional connections early on as things that really trigger a way for people to self-identify with a career choice or a career mission. And, whether that is being a veterinarian, caring about animals, caring about animal welfare, caring about the environment, the earlier we can get those emotions into our children, the more likely they are to kind of define where they go in their lives. And I think we often kind of dismiss the little kids as not giving them enough credit that they're going to be able to make those really powerful, meaningful connections. I can say that for myself, I remember going to probably what was the worst, if not one of the worst zoos I have ever been to, and seeing people throwing rocks at a rhino. And I loved looking at the rhino and how amazing that animal looked with this body armor and everything. But really, it was that image of seeing these jerk kids throwing rocks at a rhino that made me want to care for that animal. And I think that to the extent that people have those kind of meaningful, personal, emotional connections early in life, that really affects their choices later on.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing that. Definitely some good advice that I feel like I should be writing down right now for my future. But yes, we're going to move on to the next question. So somebody did ask, how difficult is it to get into residency? And for those who have already went through that process, I would definitely encourage to give some insight on that if you can. Dr. Green, I know you are the cardiologist, but I would definitely love to hear some more about that.
Well, I just kind of mix both of those questions up a little bit. That's something going into vet school I had no idea I wanted to do. I always say I was one of the most ignorant vet students you would ever find about the profession. I had one thought in mind about what I was going to do and had no idea the span of things that you're capable of doing in veterinary medicine. Residency programs are challenging to get into. I've been a part of every admissions committee process, from vet tech, vet nursing, DVM school, residency and internship programs. And running those programs is very insightful at looking at the number of students that get turned away from these programs year in and year out. It's especially residency programs. It's just not enough to go around for the great candidates that you have. So they're difficult on some hands, so you need to be prepared. One of the things I did at Purdue constantly was mentoring students about goals, and if their goal was internship or residency, let them know the standards that you have to meet in order to get them. And they're real. They're competitive to get into. So a lot of times you have to have competitive grade point averages. There are diversity initiative programs that are out there in internships and residencies. That doesn't mean, and I make it very clear to our students that it doesn't mean that your grade point average can slip. That's a big factor in getting into these programs to some extent. Now, does it mean that that's the end all be all? No. I've had students that were at the bottom of our class actually become surgeons, and internal medicine, emergency doctors. It just takes them a longer time to get through that process of figuring out how to get the proper recommendations, to get the clinical experiences that can buffer the grade point average to some extent. So there's always potential routes to get in, but I will say, if you're even considering that, it does start with making sure that you're taking care of your grades. And I oftentimes would tell our students, there's a lot of things that you can do to be a mentor down the line, but the most important thing you can do is focus on your DVM while you're in vet school. All the other things that we do distract us, all those committees and all those other things that we're looking to be advocates for while you're in vet school, the most important thing you can do is get your DVM. That makes you powerful beyond belief. And then your mentoring can be huge at that point in time, whether you're a DVM in private practice, whether you're a lawyer, like you said, Dr. Bowens, you're a DVM. You're in the top echelon of society at that point in time, as one of my advisors said, and you can now do a number of things that you want to do, but it's most important that you get that DVM.
Yeah, I'll chime in. We have over 100 house officer positions, we call them, at NC State College of Veterinary Medicine, and they include our interns and residents. And I can tell you just what Dr. Green said is spot on, and that they're extremely competitive. You really need to be networking. You need to start that, even before you get into vet schools, what I guess. And you'll really make it clear to your advisors, the folks that you're meeting with, the folks that you're talking with, the folks that you're finding the shadow and get experiences with now, make it clear to them that you have that interest in doing some level of specialty training. I myself, I was very fortunate in getting my internship out of vet school. I had no intentions of doing what I did. I had a mentor, an advisor at Tuskegee that forwarded me on to University of Tennessee with the interest that I had in large animals to get my rotating large animal internship. And it led me from there into the residency that I did at North Carolina State University in ruminant production medicine. But again, both of the first position that I got at Tennessee was actually a position that was earmarked for underrepresented minorities. And there are some positions out there that are strictly set up and structured for that. We have two of them at NC State's College of Veterinary Medicine that we specifically reserve for underrepresented minorities to increase access for the opportunities to get them into these specialty fields and positions. So I definitely look at those, but you want to first and foremost, as Dr. Green said, put yourselves in the position where you are that top qualified candidate that's going to be sought after by everyone in your pursuits to become the specialist that you want to do. But at the same time, don't not look at and take advantage of the minimal amount of opportunities that are out there for you in these particular underrepresented spots that might be available.
Can I chime back in with that? because one of the things I do want to emphasize to students is I was a stubborn student. I actually literally, just to tell you my story, was not going to apply for diversity positions because I was like, well, why would I need that? I had a good GPA. And I had a resident at the time literally smack me upside my head and said, why are you being dumb? Just to clean it up a little bit. Those are for you, and take advantage of it. Take full advantage of those opportunities. It doesn't mean that you don't match in other potential positions. And I actually applied in both realms and ranked my diversity position first and took that opportunity. I didn't originally match for a cardio residency. Coming out, there was 2 in the country at the time. And I did not get one of them at NC State University. I know, I love the group over there. However, and I didn't apply to the other one because it was in California and I was a newlywed at the time. And my wife did not want to move all the way out to California. So I was stuck with one position potential, and then Purdue opened up a position late. So even if you don't match, things may still fall in line. And the best thing that I can tell you during that time, and I've had to deal with interns who haven't matched and students who haven't matched, is to stay positive. Do not let that failure ruin your attitude towards the process, because your attitude, staying positive towards the process, and I think mine staying positive towards the process, actually set me apart from others who were not performing anymore because of their failure. And that allowed me to still get into this position after the match program. So it's still, people saw how I reacted to the stress of it. They said, hey, this candidate's still capable of performing, still capable of doing things despite his disappointment. And lo and behold, I became a cardiologist and was able, because of my position, actually I was the first African-American to board in cardiology, and was able, because of my position, able to train 3 others, the next 3 that came down the line. So doing your part will help others more than anything else. So that's my advice.
I love it. That was great. Thank you guys for that insightful information. So it's so unfortunate right now because we have to get ready to go into our breakout sessions. And we've had so many questions that were either answered one-on-one with you guys, or will have to be answered in the breakout rooms. But that's why we have these breakout rooms, so that everybody can have that one-on-one time with our special interviewers and our panelists. Also, a lot of these panelists can be reached on Instagram, through Facebook, or through BlackDVM Network. So please, if you have any more questions, or you want to start doing your networking early, like many of these panelists have already emphasized, please do so. Reach out to us, reach out to them. We're all here to bridge that connection and make sure that everybody is well connected within the BlackDVM Network community. So now I want to bring back Tiara to close us out for today. But thank you, panelists, for taking the time out to do this today. I really enjoyed being the moderator with you all, and I look forward to working with you guys more.
Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming, for being here. We appreciate all of the attendees and all of the panelists. You guys shared some really amazing knowledge, and just being vulnerable with your experiences. We all really appreciate that. Like Alexis said, we're going to move out into our breakout sessions, and this is the time when you can ask panelists the questions that maybe you didn't get answered during this last hour. So in your email, you guys have all of the Zoom links. We're going to end this webinar, and everyone's going to move out into the breakout rooms with their Zoom links. We have 3 speakers for each 30-minute session. So please choose one of those break rooms and, stay in there, and then you can move to the next one. All right, thank you guys so much. Panelists, thank you so much for your time. We will see you guys either at 1:30, or 2. All right, guys, bye.